This conference will now be recorded.
We were discussing acupuncture.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yes. Jayla, my daughter Jayla, who passed away, she actually was going for just a little bit, like for a month before she passed. It was like in late July of 2019, because she passed August of 2019. And we were trying that, and that did work for her for a little bit, but you know, she was stage 4. So the option of the pain relief just did not last as long as we would hoped. But yeah, it was a great service, the acupuncture.
So you raise a really good point, Sonia, and sort of to set your expectations, Andre. The thing with the acupuncture is you do have to keep going back. It's not something that's permanent. So, you know, if you find that it's working, you have to go back every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm not exactly sure what the interval is. Some people say 2, some say 3. But if you think it's helping you, then you have to keep topping it up. It doesn't stay.
Yeah, the only issue with that is my insurance doesn't cover this treatment or whatever. So this is, you know, coming out of pocket. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, I
got you. You know, I'm really surprised with that, because TRICARE is really, really good. And I assume you're on TRICARE, is that right?
That's correct.
You might want to appeal it or push them a little bit. And I've got one of my guys, he's actually on our board and he's a really, really good guy. And I'm going to drop him a line and ask him if he knows about acupuncture and TRICARE. But
actually, Andre, I have a really good solution for you. So at the AYA clinic, one of the social workers told me that there's actually a charity, a nonprofit organization that will cover alternative treatments like massage, acupuncture 100% if you fill out a form. So if you contact maybe the AYA clinic at MD Anderson, and I think you should probably go there anyway, the social worker can help you fill out that form. And whatever organization this is, I don't remember which one it is. I do have the paperwork for it because I was going to get massages covered for me. They will actually cover all your out-of-pocket for the alternative, natural, supplemental things to your treatment. So that's worth looking into.
Okay, great. I definitely would do that.
And I just checked the TRICARE website, and they don't cover alternative treatment.
So let me just say one thing. Let's call them complementary treatments, and let's look for and look again for complementary, because there's a big difference between alternative and complementary. And what we're talking about here is complementary medicine. The difference is that complementary medicine complements the treatments you're already getting. Alternative is in place of what you're already getting. So, you know, the example that was used for me many years ago and still uses that coffee enemas, for example, in Mexico, that's alternative medicine. But acupuncture, massage, exercise, meditation, supplements, those are all complementary. So when you look on TRICARE, look under complementary medicine, COMPLEMENTARY. Complementary, not complementary. Because we all like compliments, but we're talking about complements.
Oh, and Sonia, as well, wanted to ask you if there's anything that you have on your mind that you wanted to discuss, or any questions? Sonia, I think you're on mute still if you're talking.
I would love to hear Sonia's story about her daughter.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, because I'm driving, so it's like, so I don't have anything that I really want to discuss other than the fact that since my daughter Jayla passed away, that my main focus is spreading awareness. Kidney cancer and then RMC, and so that's why I kind of like reached out to Miss Ritchie to like see if I can work with her to do whatever it takes, just because I don't want another parent to have to bury their young child like I had to do, and that's why I joined this chat to see like what we can do as a group to form an alliance, because we're stronger together. And I know that every time something happens with an individual, we go and we start our own foundation and we kind of work with our 3,000 group of followers. We can kind of like get together and have like one organization and still have your subgroups. But I feel like we need something where the doctors, which obviously Ms. Ritchie is doing well with Dr. Chenier, because that's who Jayla saw, was Dr. Chenier, and seeing what we can do. I don't know. I just feel like I'm helpless. I feel frustrated, and I just feel like I need to do something. So that's why I'm here.
Mm.
I don't know. Were y'all able to hear me? Because again, I'm driving and it's just on speaker.
Heard you most of it, but yeah,
Oh,
I'm glad you're here, Sonia.
I am so sorry that I thought I was going to be home by now. I'm sorry.
And we only lost you for a short amount of time. Richie, what's your take on? I mean, this I think what Sonia talks about is huge, and it's why we do this work, because we want people that come along after us to tread a easier path.
Right. I think
but-
it's important that we do all work together. So many people tend to want to work in silos where, you know, as a group, you can be more effective and your voice can be louder. And, you know, with RMC so widespread, we can use someone in every state, every city. I mean, whatever it takes to get the word out, because there is so much education that's needed as it relates to sickle cell trait and RAMC. As you know, the sickle cell disease community, they tend to not acknowledge SCT. So it is up to us and the other areas. You know, sickle cell trait is basically the nucleus of all these issues that surround it, whether it be RAMC, dehydration, or you name it. That's what they have to understand. And even with sickle cell disease, you know, without the two traits, you don't have the sickle cell disease. So whereas there are vast amount of organizations that focus primarily on sickle cell disease, no one really focuses on sickle cell trait. And so we have a lot of work ahead of us. So the more the merrier we can get on board. And, you know, of course, COVID has stopped us somewhat, but we still have social media. We're going to be doing our virtual walk again in March. So that will help get some awareness out. So yes, Sonia, we would love to have you on board. And where are you? Are you in San Antonio?
Yes, ma'am. I am in San Antonio. And do you have time? Do you want me to tell you Jayla's story, like how we found out and everything?
That would be great if it's okay with the group.
we love you too.
Okay, perfect. So with Jayla, so we found out when she was 16, and so probably about a year, probably we'll say a year, that she was complaining about like her back just like like, Mom, I couldn't sleep, my back was hurting. I'm like, oh, okay. And so, of course, like everyone else thinks it is the mattress. And so we looked into that. And then I took her to the doctor because she kept complaining about her back. And they sent us to Arasti because they assumed it was her backpack, extremely heavy. So we went to Arasti for a couple of sessions, and then that went away, right? And so then she complained about her legs, like she was having pain and a little cramping in her legs. And they said it's probably like growing pains because she was like 13 or 14 at that time. And it made sense. And then they told us to go to a genetic testing, and we went there because they said it could be juvenile arthritis. And the test came back negative, so that was fine. And then earlier in 2018, January, she said, Mom, it's getting harder for me to breathe. And she was swimming. She was a freshman in high school, and she joined the swim team. So she was swimming. And so when we went to the doctor, they said, oh, it's because of the African dust. It's in the air, and that's why. And so they gave us a pump. Now, when she was little, she had like an asthma pump. So she didn't have to use her asthma pump for maybe like 5 years. And all of a sudden, in January 2018, she was complaining about it's harder for her to breathe. So it didn't seem shocking. So we went, she got her air pump, everything was fine. So the issue with Jayla was that it wasn't like a level 10. Like I wish it would have been like a level 10 right away. It was just a nagging pain, and then she started sweating profusely under her armpits, where she would be embarrassed. She would keep her arms down because she could just be sitting and then all of a sudden started sweating. So I took her to the doctor, and they're like, oh, it's because her hormones. And they prescribed medicated deodorant, and I still have that in my closet. And so she would use that, like after the shower, they said to put it on, and then in the morning as well. And that did help, and it went away eventually. And those were her signs. And then what tipped us off was in July of 2018, she said, Mom, my stomach feels like it's on fire. And I was like, on fire? She was like, yeah. So we went to the doctor, and they said, well, it's probably something that she ate, but if you want, we can do an ultrasound. And we're like, yeah, let's do one. And so when an ultrasound came back, they said, we see something, but we're not quite sure what it is. And so they referred us to the gastrointestinal doctor, and we went, and we spent 30 minutes talking about stool, because he felt Jayla's stomach and said, oh, it is a little hard. She's probably constipated. So we looked at the chart, and he told us to take Miralax, go to the grocery store, buy the large container of Miralax, and come back in 3 months. And then we were leaving out, and then Jayla said, oh, my dad has celiac disease. And the doctor said, oh, well, maybe that's why your stomach is irritated. Come back on Monday, and we'll do an CT scan. And so we did that, and then that was August 13th, and then August 15th, they called us back and said, you need to bring Jayla in immediately. We found lesions on her lungs, liver, pancreas, and stomach. And so that was August 15th, 2018, and then she stayed in the hospital for 3 days. And then that was the beginning of her junior year of high school. So she went for that first week, and then they came back on August 28th, and they told us that we found out what it was. We had to send her biopsy to Chicago to the specialized doctor, and she said it was RMC. And so then September 5th, they referred us to Dr. Tanier, and we went there. Her first appointment was like September 8th of 2018, and we would go every 2 weeks. And it was working for a bit, like the first chemo that she was taking, which I cannot remember the name, but I have all the documents. So that started working, and she was feeling really good, and then it stopped, of course. Tumors were growing, and then she ran out of options in July. So Dr. Tanier says, if this doesn't work, that we don't have any other option. Like, this has to work. So of course, you know, we had all of our relatives praying for Jayla, praying for Jayla. And so we went there July 25th of 2019 to get the results after the chemo. And of course, everything was growing. And she had more tumors. They were combining into one, merging into one. And so we left July 26, 2019, knowing that there was no more chemo, there was no more options, and, you know, we were in God's hands. And then she said, Mom, I want to go to school my senior year. And so August 20th, the first day of her senior year, she went. She was in a wheelchair, so she started falling, and it was hard for her to keep her head up. And we went on hospice on the day that we came back from her first day of her senior day in high school. And then she died. That was Tuesday, was the first day of school. Wednesday, she was fine, and then she died Friday at 3:05 a.m. And that was it. That was Miss Jayla. That was her life right there. So I'm thankful. I thank God that we had like a whole year from the time August 15th until she died August 23rd. So that was it. I mean, we didn't try anything other than just doing the chemo. And then at the end, I found out about acupuncture, just like for the pain. And like I said, that helped. Like, she would go in at a level 8. And then, like, after the acupuncture, she was like, oh, I feel like I'm a level 5 or like a 4, 3. But by the time we got home, she was already, you know, because it just metastasized. She was in so much pain. So that's why I'm on this mission.
I'm sorry. Did you know that she had sickle cell trait?
I did know, but like, I always knew that as long as I never, and she never married anyone with the trait, we were fine. Like, there was no other issues to worry about if you just have the trait. So I never knew about an optional disease of RMC or any issues. So I have the sickle cell trait too. My sister has it, and my dad has the trait, and, you know, we're all fine. But for some reason with Jayla, it triggered the RMC in her. And, you know, so we're all baffled about how it happened and what causes it, just like all of the other research scientists are kind of baffled. So anyway, so that's my mission, is just to educate and not just take what the doctors say, even though it may sound like it could be true, you know, like it could be her backpack. Maybe that's why. It could be the mattress. If it's over 8, you got to get rid of your mattress. You know, it's like, yeah, it makes sense, you know, but just to question it now because we know about sickle cell trait, right? So now we go deeper.
Right. Everybody that I've talked to, all of their children, or even, you know, everybody has been misdiagnosed initially. And I think basically it's because the medical professional still is not aware of sickle cell trait and its affiliation with RMC. And even so, there are still so many people that don't know their status. So we have a lot of work to do. And Andre could share with you too, because I don't think he knew that he had sickle cell trait initially. And it was even with Chris. I knew he had sickle cell trait, but the physicians didn't ask, do you have the trait? Because he had complained about his back hurting for 2 years. And they had sent him to everybody. I mean, chiropractor, you name it, physical therapy. And it wasn't until blood was in his urine that they did the CT scan and saw the tumor. So it's just so much education is needed out there, not just with the community, but with the medical professionals as well.
Yes, but you know what? Even though I've heard a lot of stories about patients who had their kidneys removed like right away, like they could have been in stage 3, like the end result is still the same, is that they end up not surviving. So I don't know if So, so now I'm like second guessing myself. Is like, is education really the key? Like even if you know early and if you remove your kidney, will that really stop it? Because all the parents that I know, all of their kids had their kidneys removed. Jayla never had her kidneys removed, and we all are missing our children. Kidneys in or kidneys out. The end result is still sometimes death.
Right. And I'm not too sure it'd make a huge difference. I know with Dr. Tanier, their treatment, they feel that they need to contain the tumors and get them to shrink before they remove the kidney. Chris's case, he had his removed. I mean, I've seen it both ways. I'm not too sure which, because they're still learning. They're still researching. They don't really understand the biology of RMC and its affiliation with sickle cell trait. They're learning more, but they're still a little confused, and there's still a lot of work on their part to be done.
I know. I feel like by now, since they're really like, I don't want to say like the only facility or institution that handles RMC, but I feel like they should be further along with their research, because I know those clinical trials are pretty much still the same from, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years. I don't believe there are any new trials. I don't know.
Actually, those trials just started a couple years ago. Before then, they weren't that interested in RMC. It wasn't until Dr. Tanier really, I guess the words that Chris has shared with him, that he really felt the need to do more research, because in his mind it was, it only happened to one person every now and then, so and it wasn't that big of a deal. And I looked at him then, I said, one person is too many. If it was your child, it would be too many. And even Chris, even told him, you're world renowned. Can't you save me? I want to see my daughter graduate from high school. And those words resonated in his heart. And it was then that he really got serious and ignited Dr. Masal, who is really a champion for REMC. So I think now more and more is being done, but prior to then, I don't think very much was done at all.
Let me ask Andre and Carissa. Andre, first for your experience, because Richie referred to you, and then we'll come. I've got a question for Carissa. Go ahead. So, what was your question? Well, remind us what you wanted Andre to address, Richie.
I wanted him basically just to share just the synopsis of his story, how he didn't know he had sickle cell trait, and so that she could be aware, sort of what he went through initially, and that it seemed to be a common path among all the REMC patients.
All right, Captain, you're up.
Okay, I didn't realize I had the trait until they told me I had RMC, and it was associated with the sickle cell trait. So all this time, I thought I was perfectly healthy. I mean, I've been in the military for over a decade, physically fit. I've been in pretty good shape. I never had any issues with anything until December. I remember December 2018, I got this sharp pain in my back. Like I was hunched over the couch. It was just sharp pains or whatever. And I had blood in my urine as well. So I went to the hospital and they thought, oh, it was kidney stones or something like that. So the pain, they gave me something for pain, and it subsided. And then like maybe 2 months later, another sharp pain. So now I go to my military doctor or whatever. So I was like, doc, I don't know what's going on. So they gave me some more pain meds. They really didn't do anything but give me pain medicine pretty much. So the pain subsided. I went back home. Then like a month or so later, the pain came back again. So now I went back to the same doctor. And he was like, hey, we should, do a CT scan or whatever. And I remember it was like it was yesterday. I was at work and he called me. He was like, "Hey, we see a mass on your right kidney or whatever. You need to come in immediately or whatever." And now a week after I found out um, that the mass was on my kidney, I had surgery to remove my right kidney like a week later at Walter Reed. And Walter Reed, this before I found out that I had the actual RMC. They just knew I had kidney cancer. So once I got my kidney removed and they did further tests or whatever on the tumor or whatever, on my kidney or whatever, then they told me RMC, they told me the prognosis or whatever. And, that was just, so devastating or whatever. And I tried to find out as much information as I could. That's when I heard about Herman Connor or whatever, who was diagnosed, I think back in 14 or whatever. And, that gave me a glimpse of hope, because before they was like the prognosis is like 4 months. So that's all I knew, like 4 months. I got to get, all my affairs in order because, I might not be here or whatever. So I heard about Herman's story and I was like, hey, I can beat this or whatever. So I was like, I told my my colonel at the time, I was like, 'cause they was gonna send me to a cancer center, I think up in Maryland. I was like, I got to get down to MD Anderson to, the best of the best. So that's when I transferred down to MD Anderson and went through all the chemos and the radiation and immunotherapy, and for the past year, that's what I've been going through or whatever. And my scans finally came back good. So I actually go back at the end of this month. I got to do another scan. So I'm be doing scans every 3 months or whatever. So, we praying
Oh,
that
that's
everything.
excellent. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
we're praying that everything stays clear, and I plan on being a champion for this cause as well.
So what stage were
So
you in? What stage were you? Or are
stage
you when they found
uh,
it? Uh-huh.
stage 4. The doctor says once you start showing signs and symptoms like blood in the urine and stuff like that, you're already in stage 4. So man, the news was devastating. I mean, I didn't really man, I just really couldn't comprehend it because I was healthy all my life. I was like, man, now it's just like everything got turned upside down, and I was like, man, I got to, try to fight this thing. And a year later, I mean, I think keeping a positive attitude is as important as your chemo and immunotherapy or whatever else you do. Keeping the right mindset of, we're gonna beat this thing. And Dr. Masao, he turns over every leaf to try to find a cure for this thing. I've been through I think like 3 different chemos. I've been through immunotherapy. Then he sent me down and I did radiation for I think I did 28 radiation treatments Monday through Friday. So I went every Monday through Friday for I think for 4 weeks. And man, I'm at this point now, and I'm gonna keep pushing, and hopefully I can inspire somebody else, like Herman's story, and inspire me or whatever. So
Well, that's great. So do you think it was one particular drug, like chemo? Because it's a clinical trial that you're doing, right? Are you doing a
yeah,
clinical
so
trial?
I know yes, I started out on doxorubicin and gemcitabine. So those are 2 I started with before, and it worked for a while. So it shrank some of my tumors for a while, and then I guess I don't know if the tumors get susceptible to that type of chemo, and
Yeah.
eventually it stopped being as effective. That chemo stopped being as effective or whatever. So immediately he switched because he don't wait no time. So once that CT scan comes back and it shows like the cancer or the treatment is not being as effective, he goes to something else or whatever. So that's when I did immunotherapy treatment, and that worked for a little while as well. Then it got less effective, and then went to another chemo drug. And I think the last two chemo drugs I did was carboplatin and I think paclitaxel.
Which immunotherapy did you do, Andre? Do you remember?
I have it written down. These names, all these drugs, I can't.
Yeah, they're hard.
I can't really nail them all down. So
Was it something like nivolumab or ipilimumab?
the N word.
Nivolumab.
Yep.
Opdivo. Opdivo is the trade name for it. OPDIVO. Opdivo.
Yeah. I saw a commercial for that the other day too. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, that was me.
Did they ever genomically analyze your tumor? Did they ever send the tumor away to get a genetic profile of it?
Yeah, so I did a genetic profile and everything. Genetically, I have no type of connection to like any type of cancer or anything. It was just sickle cell trait.
Right. The reason I ask is because nivolumab works when you have a couple of features, but you have to do the test for the features. So one of them is something called MSI, which stands for microsatellite instability, and there will not be a test, so you don't have to remember this. But one of them is MSI, and then the other is what they call the tumor mutation burden. But basically, they're looking at how unstable your cancer is, because the more unstable it is, the more likely it is you're going to respond to the drug that you took, or there are other drugs in that family too. And so I'm asking really more out of my own interest, because I don't know much about RMC. Did the immunotherapy have a response for you? Did you respond to the immunotherapy?
Yes, it worked. It worked for a while, and then the tumor shrank some, and then eventually, I guess it stopped being as effective.
Yeah, and what about the side effects from the immunotherapy versus the chemo?
Oh, the chemo was way worse. Immunotherapy, I really didn't have an issue, but chemo, nausea and stuff like that.
Yeah.
During immunotherapy, I grew some of my hair back, which I'm growing back now.
Mhm.
You can see that, but immunotherapy, I grew my hair back, and I didn't have any real side effects for the immunotherapy.
That's really, to me, it's really interesting, because we deal with a lot of guys and others who are getting immunotherapy and also getting chemo. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I'd like to talk to Sonia for a little bit, if it's okay.
Yes,
Sonia,
I'm here.
Sonia, so I'm actually an advocate myself. My connection to RMC is Chris's husband. Chris is part of my family now, and Carlos will always have a special place in my heart. But I don't have a connection to RMC other than that, but I am an advocate for young adult cancer. And when I got connected to Richie, I'm so grateful that Richie embraced me and she put me to work. And I think that's amazing. But Sonia, when I heard you talking about your daughter's story and sharing, you shared that so well. I would have thought you've been advocating for years now. You did that so concise. You got all the details right. And I got the human and the love element as well. So one of the things you talked about is you wanted to potentially raise more awareness. And one of the ways, and I even talked to Richie about this, is what we need is some political side advocacy with RMC, which would be talking to your representatives and senators, because some of that funding actually comes at that level. And I think that is something you might should look into. I do that myself. And you did so excellently at telling me your story. I think you could have an incredible impact, and I know you're going to create change just for RMC. I hear your passion, I hear your story, and I expect really good things out of you.
That is
No,
extremely
yes,
important. We don't have
yes,
much funding.
you're right. And so, like, I would need guidance, but yeah, I'm all about like going to see and do and write or whatever is needed so we can start the progress of helping others.
Absolutely. And Richie, would you be able to connect us?
Yes.
And maybe we can start talking about that too, because a lot of meetings have moved virtually. That's how I did my DC stuff this year. And it's relatively easy to do. And if you can tell your story, you can do it.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's perfect because I know other people who have recently lost as well, you know, like they're
Oh no.
Oh,
Mute.
Sonia, I think you're on mute.
oh, sorry. There's others who lost their kids as well. But yeah, no, I would want to be the voice to help with change or just to bring more awareness, whatever you need me. That's what I'm saying. Like, however you feel that it's best to get the word out, because I'm all about like the mission. And
Right.
that's all about saving and enhancing lives, right? And that's what,
Exactly.
and working together. And that's what I want to do because we already have a success story here with us so far. So that's awesome. So praying for longevity and that the chemo will work for, I forgot his name. I'm sorry.
Andre.
Andre, yes, about to say Adam. For Andre, yes. So anyway, so yeah, so please use me. That's what I'm here for.
We will. I've been to Austin several times. I've been to DC several times, and I tell my story, but if they can hear it from more people, I think they'll be more apt to listen and know it's just not one isolated case. So we're going to knock the doors down. There's Lois.
Hi, Lois.
Hi, Lois. Let us just go back to Carissa before we welcome Lois. Because Carissa, we haven't heard from you, and was Carlos misdiagnosed, and how quick was his journey, or slow was his journey? And tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, so well, Carlos, I'll give a little background on him. He was a judo fighter, like third degree black belt. So he's very used to like pain and like ignoring it. When he started complaining was when he started teaching, and he said he felt like short of breath a little bit, and he also found urine in his blood. That was like where like he got concerned. So when he found urine in his blood, they thought like it was a kidney stone. So it took a little bit of while, but he finally got like November. They did like a CT scan of his chest and of his abdomen area, and they found a mass in his kidneys. Also saw some nodules on his lungs. So we live in New Jersey. He was seeing a urologist. They were going to suggest to take his kidney out. One of his friends had parents that had cancer, and they were getting seen at Sloan Kettering. So he's like, yeah, we really need to get a second opinion. So we actually drove in the middle of the night to try to go to Sloan Kettering, but they're a private hospital, so we couldn't get in, but they told us to go to New York Presbyterian, which was right across the street. So we got we were able to get we went through the emergency room, and then we got an appointment with an oncologist there. And his like the oncologist looked at the scans and was very concerned about what was in like more of the lungs. So they got a biopsy, and that's how they found out that he had RMC. So it took like 3 or 4 months, like with that whole process, like of when he started finding like urination in his blood. And so he was getting like he got treated with a chemo for about 6 months, and was in remission. In that time, say like halfway of that time, they removed the mass from his kidney, but we're still doing the chemo treatments to address what was spread to his lungs. And then like 6 months later, it came back. So he was on another clinical trial, and they actually did like test for the mutations and didn't really find anything except that he was I9 deficient. So they found like a clinical trial in New York Presbyterian, and he was on that for about 10 months, and then they saw that it wasn't working anymore. And then that's when we got referred to MD Anderson, and he did a couple of clinical trials there. He also had immunotherapy as well, and I think it was the same as Andre's, but he didn't like that one. He didn't respond at all to that. He also had he did have some radiation done, but it was more for palliative, just to get him on a clinical trial. And that last clinical trial, yeah, that didn't work.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, now we have to go back to you, Carissa, unless does anybody have questions for Carissa? And if not, Sonia, anything you want to ask Carissa? Well, we've got a couple of people that have just arrived. So Carissa, I'm going to go back to you to welcome the people.
Babe, you need to be quiet.
Sonia,
Sorry.
That's okay, McKenna. Sonia, you put your mic on. Was there something you wanted to ask Carissa? We're not hearing you. You're putting your mic on, but we can't hear you. Don't know what's going on. I think there was, but we still can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Try, Sonia, try leaving and coming back in. That might work. And then I'm just going to turn it back to Carissa to welcome Lois and McKenna. We've been going about an hour, but it's recorded. A lot of it's recorded, and we've been having a great discussion. So go on, Carissa.
Hi, Lois. I wanted to see if there was anything on your mind that you wanted to discuss or any questions you had.
Oh, we can't hear.
Can't hear you, Lois. It looks like your mic's on, though.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Your microphone is on, but it's not working. It says
Lois,
it's on.
are you on your laptop? Give me a thumbs up or down.
I think I know what you have to do. I think I know what you have to do. You have to go to the settings and tell it that you're using your headphones. That's the problem. So you have to go to the little cog in the top right-hand corner and tell it, click on that cog and tell it that you're using your microphone from your headset. Because it's not hearing that microphone. So there's a little cog in the top. In the meantime, Carissa, we should say hello to McKenna.
Hi,
Hi
McKenna.
guys. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. Is there anything on your mind, McKenna, that you wanted to talk about or had any questions?
Not really, not entirely. I kind of wanted to just hear, Richie did text me that there is Sonia, and I know that she's muted right now, but I kind of wanted to hear her story and get caught up a little bit.
Well, what we will do for sure is the meeting's recorded, and I will send that recording to Richie. We'll post it on our YouTube, and you'll be able to go in and listen, and you'll hear Sonia's story for sure.
Okay.
Sonia, can we hear you yet? No, we still can't hear you, Sonia. I don't know what happened. Because we could hear you before, and now all of a sudden we can't hear you. But maybe for Sonia's sake, you might want to talk about or tell her briefly your story in terms of how you found out that you had RMC and how long it was after when you first started having symptoms, and did they diagnose you immediately? Did they misdiagnose you? That's what we were talking about.
Okay. Well, let's see. I first started having symptoms before being diagnosed. I wasn't misdiagnosed, but they did kind of suspect that it was lymphoma without giving me like the definite answer. So a lot of you already know, but my symptoms started as like just difficulty breathing and back pain, and then the most alarming thing was I had a big lump in my neck right above my collarbone. It was about the size of a golf ball, and that was pretty much what led us to the diagnosis of RMC. It was kind of quick, honestly. It was I went to the hospital, I told them everything that was wrong with me, and then once I mentioned my lump, that was the most alarming thing that the doctor noticed. So he decided to take all the necessary steps as far as get in contact with Children's Hospital and schedule like a biopsy and testing. And I think it was about less than a week when they had called my family in for the meeting and told us that it was RMC. I was very lucky as, compared to some other people who were diagnosed, because it wasn't as consuming in my body as most cases are, especially because they're not diagnosed typically until it's spread to major organs. It was only found in my right kidney and my lymph nodes up and down my spinal column. So what they did was they took out my right kidney and then a little bit of those lymph nodes, and I did chemo. I was supposed to do radiation, but I reacted horribly to it, so I did it once and then I never went back again, and I've been in remission for 4 years. Richie, is that right? Is it 4 years? I can't even remember myself. It's about 4 years, okay.
You're muted, Richie. You have to turn on there you go.
Right, because I think you were right at 15 when you were diagnosed, 14 or 15?
15, yes. Yeah,
Right.
15.
I had the pleasure of meeting McKenna's mom, so we were back and forth when she was initially diagnosed. Did you see
Yes.
my T-shirt the other day? I had it on, the Wilburn Warrior.
I did. I loved it. It looked awesome. I can't believe I totally forgot that you had that. So when I saw it on Facebook, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, we have a bunch of shirts. I have a bunch in my closet too.
So, Sonia, can we hear you yet?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, perfect.
Now you can ask questions to Carissa. You can ask questions to McKenna. I have one quick question for McKenna. McKenna, I'm sure that you must have been stage 4 as well because you had a lump in your neck.
Yes, I was stage 4. They said that it was progressing quickly, but we caught it in time to like kind of cut it off where it was. So, like I said, I was lucky it didn't spread more, or it wasn't, and it hadn't initially spread before they diagnosed it. So, but yeah, stage 4.
Go ahead, Sonia.
No, so for Clarissa, I was asking, like, how long was it from the time that he was diagnosed to the time he actually, the medication, the chemo stopped working and then he passed?
Well, 3.5 years, like all together.
Wow, that's a long time. That's great.
Yeah, he went through like over like 7 different treatments during that time. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Like, cause he was diagnosed like 6 months after we got married, and that was a big year for us too, cause he graduated college. He started teaching that year. So
How long had you been together before you got married, Carissa?
was it 3, like 7, no, like about 6 years, like 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And like this past June, when like we would have been together for 10 years, we did like our whole 20s together.
Wow. Where was he local to you? Were you from the same area or?
Yeah, we both grew up in New Jersey. We met each other. We worked at like the same restaurant in college. So that's how we met. He would like smile at me with his cute little smile, like, and follow me around.
That's cute.
As long as he wasn't taking your tips, that's and McKenna or Sonia, I mean, here's another success story like Andre with McKenna. So you're muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
no, that's good. I know. I know, and it's so good to hear success stories, and then it makes you wonder, like, what makes up a success story, right? Like, what is it about person A versus person B? What looks seemingly the same, but obviously not. Obviously that's the $1 million question, right? Because obviously if we knew the difference and that we can extract that, then we wouldn't even have this little support group.
Maybe it's something to do, and like I say, I know very little. Maybe Richie knows a lot more, or Alexa. Maybe it's something to do with the expression of the sickle cell trait. If you have renal medullary cancer, do you also have to have sickle cell? Can you have Rmc without sickle cell trait?
Yes, there's a non-specific clear cell RMC that they have, unclassified, and it's for those that don't have the sickle cell trait. It's not as many, but yes, you can.
I didn't know that. I thought it was directly linked to sickle cell trait.
For the most part, it is, That's the common denominator, but there are those that don't have it. In fact, a while back, she called him Doodles, and actually he's a Caucasian young man, and he did not have the sickle cell trait, but he was diagnosed with RMC.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Lois, we are getting some feedback from you, but maybe you'll come through better when you talk. But does your daughter have sickle cell trait?
Yes. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I contacted you through my mobile. There was a problem with the Bluetooth headset for some reason. Anyway, yes, I have sickle cell traits, and my younger son has also sickle cell trait, and Penina, of course, has got that. We knew that, but here in Greece, they don't know what to do. It seems everybody says that, okay, it's something quite benign. I mean, doesn't cause any problem. And in most cases, it doesn't. But the more I read about that and the more I get informed about that, I see that people who have that should be more careful with their activities, should be very well hydrated, for example, and they shouldn't exaggerate themselves when exercising. I don't know if that was the problem with Penina, because she wanted to become a champion in track field. She had always been working out. But maybe the phase, she got very tall this past year. She gained height. Maybe that was one of the factors that I don't know, made her body be quite tired, let's say. Because from what I heard is that these cells do not have, they become very rigid, and they don't give quite enough oxygen to the body. Is that so?
Richie.
Yes.
I don't know if it's what actually happens.
What happens is when you have your blood cells that sickle, that keep the oxygenated blood from flowing through the vessels like it normally would with a normal cell.
Yeah.
Because it has to go to the lung to get oxygen to take it back through the body. And when you have that sickle cell, you have like a blockage going through that capillary tube.
Yeah. Right.
Lois, Lois, how did you discover that you had sickle cell?
Well, it's been years. When I had started working long ago, many years before I got married, the first year that I went out teaching, I was quite tired that year, and I had a kind of infection. I don't know the name. It's in Greek is limosis, which is infectious monopyrinosis. Does that sound familiar? Anyway, I tried.
Could it be mononucleosis, maybe?
Yeah. What in English? Mononucleosis. Yeah. Limosis.
Mononucleosis. Yeah. We
Right.
just say mono. We call it mono for short, right, Richie?
Mono.
Mono.
You know me.
Mono. Okay. In Greek, it's monopyrinosis. Yeah. Okay. So I got that. And I went to hospital for 3 or 4 days because I had fever and some pain in my spleen. Spleen, is that the name of the organ?
Very
Right.
good.
Okay. And from the blood tests in the hospital, a doctor noticed that I had very good ferrum. The rate of ferrum, is that the name of it?
I'm not sure. Not sure.
C0. Anyway, some blood counts were not that good, and some others, surprisingly, were really good. And he suspected that I might have something like that. So they double checked it, and from that moment, I realized that I have the sickle cell trait. And then my mother realized that after that, because she didn't even know that. So I have that from the side of my mother.
Okay.
And then my sister did the blood test. She's 10 years younger than me. Back then I was around, how old? Maybe 25. I was 25 years old. About 25 years ago that I realized that I have sickle cell trait. So I knew it. And when I got married, I knew that my husband has not got that. But so far, so good. Nobody told us that we should be aware of something else apart from knowing that we have it. And then
I think that's the third time somebody has said that tonight on this call. Seriously, that they had sickle cell, but nobody told them to be aware for other diseases. Sonia, you said the same thing, didn't you? Unmute.
Who?
Sonia is on the call. Sonia, unmute. I think you need to unmute. But didn't you say the same thing, that you had sickle cell, but nobody told you about the other things to be careful of?
Yes, I am so sorry. Yes, I did not know that there were issues by having sickle cell trait. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was a surprise when we found out Jayla had cancer due to sickle cell trait, right? So that's where the awareness comes in of a possibility. Like Lewis was saying, that just because you have sickle cell doesn't automatically mean you're going to get RMC. And just like Richie said, just because you have RMC doesn't mean you have to have sickle cell trait. So it's all scary now because you can get it whether you have it or you don't. I liked it better when you knew if you had it, then there's a possibility you can get it versus anyone can get it.
We should
I want to show my experiment. Can I show my experiment?
Yes, show it.
How the blood goes through the vessels, and watch it not work right. Okay. This is your little capillaries, and these are your cells in here. You see the ones the yellow ones, they sort of sickle.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it upside down and I'm gonna pray they don't all fall out, okay? Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been practicing. They usually get clogged up in there. I think the little test tube is a little large. I'm gonna try it again.
Lois, we should tell you that Sonia lost her daughter recently to RMC, and that.
When did that happen?
She passed away August 23rd, 2019. And I'm going to send a link also. Like we have like a video of Jayla that one of her friends made, and I'm just going to send it in the chat.
Oh, Jayla. Oh, God. You're Jayla's mother?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I was in hospital when I read about that.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, I got devastated when I read that. Yeah, I know.
Wait, you were where? You were at MD Anderson?
No, I was in hospital in Greece with my daughter. My daughter is still struggling with RMC. And I was aware of the story, of the videos, showing Jayla dancing with her friends. Yeah. Anyway, we were looking at that with my daughter.
Really? Someone else said they saw that video and
Yeah.
their son was inspired.
Yeah. She was
They
so
were-
she was so artistic. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes it so sad. So, like, it's like you think about like losing your child and all of the what ifs and all of this, and it's like, you know what? There's nothing you can do. It's all in God's hands, right? And it's like, so what can I do now? It's like, Lord, use me to help others. And so I had to turn my depressed state and thinking about how I was feeling, which, obviously it's a daily struggle, but I try to turn that and focus on what I can do for others, which is why, I reached out to Richie and Cora with the RMC support and use me so I can help others. That's mainly because I have all this free time now, right? And that I wasn't expecting to have. So I'm like, might as well use it for good. And that's to spread awareness and do whatever else is in my journey.
So Sonia, you are doing that because clearly you brought some joy to some people on the other side of the world just from what you already posted.
I know, that's crazy.
Lois, tell us about how your daughter's doing.
At the moment, she's doing fine, and that's something that I wanted to ask to people who have struggled with that, like Makina, or people who cared for people who had that. At the moment, after 7 months, she seems to be pretty good, pretty well. We are doing 2 cycles which alternate. This regimen started in August, and one is with gemcitabine, with cisplatin and paclitaxel. Is that okay? Do you hear me? And another cycle has again gemcitabine, bortezomib, and carboplatin. Carboplatinum. Okay. So there are 3 and 3, the drugs, and they alternate in cycles of about 21 to 25 days. So actually, it's about a cycle a month. So now Fenina is with her dad in Thessaloniki in hospital, doing the 3rd, let's say, cycle in the row. And then we'll do a 4th cycle, and then the imaging stage, MRI and PET scan, to know how effective these cycles will be, the new cycles. She feels very well. She feels strong. She actually told me the other day, I have the feeling that the whole thing has gone from inside me. I don't know what makes her think so. She says, I felt in summer that I needed these drugs. Now I'm fed up. I feel that I don't need it anymore. Of course, a lot of rounds are going to follow, as the doctors say, even if the imaging results are quite good. But her condition is okay. She's not allowed to go to school, although she would like to go to school, but she's not allowed to. But generally, she doesn't have any side effects, at least not very serious, apart from some nausea, and they give her some pills to control that. Apart from that, she doesn't have any side effects. When her blood counts drop because of the therapy, we give her platelets or some blood for her counts to raise. And then when the cycle finishes, after 10 or 15 days, her blood counts start raising again, and when she's ready, she moves on to the next cycle, and that's how she is right now. I wanted to ask, despite her very good condition, she gained kilos. She's in very good condition now, I would say. Are there cases when someone was really good and then this RMC started gaining ground again?
Well, I just want to go back to Andre because it sounds like the drugs that Nina is getting are exactly the same drugs that you got, Andre, except that I'm not sure you got them in the same pattern. Are you with us? Andre, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. Come on in, Captain. So, weren't those all the same drugs that you got?
So when I first started, I was on doxorubicin and gemcitabine. Can you hear me? And then after that, I was on immunotherapy, the nivolumab. I think that's what you said, nivolumab, something like that.
Nivolumab, right? And then last?
Yep.
Then after that, I was actually on cisplatin, another chemo. Cisplatin.
Cisplatin, yeah.
So I did that for a little while, and then the last 2 chemo drugs I was on was carboplatin and paclitaxel.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Almost the same. How long have you been taking these?
So for the doxorubicin and the gemcitabine, I think I did 11 cycles. So I did it once every 3 weeks. Once every 3 weeks. And then it worked for some time. It worked for a little while. So it shrunk the tumors for a little while. And then I guess the cancer cells got receptive to it. And they switched me. That's when they switched me to immunotherapy. So I did that for a few cycles. And then the cisplatin worked for a little while. I think the carboplatin and the paclitaxel worked best for me, but I did that in conjunction. I did that at the same time as I did the radiation therapy as well. So I did a combination of radiation and the carboplatin and paclitaxel.
We didn't have any radiation so far.
Yeah, so no. I did 28 cycles, so 4 weeks of the radiation. So I went Monday through Friday, and it was only like a 10 to 15 minute process for the radiation, so it didn't take that long. And I did, in the middle of that, I did the carboplatin and the paclitaxel once every 3 weeks.
What were they radiating, Andre?
Can you say that again, Rick?
What were they radiating?
So I had, so the cancer had spread from my kidney to the lymph nodes in that same area around my right kidney. So they wanted to, those are the lymph nodes that the chemo shrunk those tumors in those lymph nodes, but it really didn't, I guess, really attack them strong enough. So Dr. Masao thought if I did the combination with the chemo and the radiation, it will, kind of overpower the cancer cells.
Yeah, so basically the radiation killed off those lymph nodes that the chemotherapy had weakened.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Does that help you, Lois, at all?
Yeah, I had asked our doctor if there was any planning for radiation, and she didn't exclude that. She would contact the doctors in MD Anderson, and if they think that it is gonna be necessary, we might have some sessions of radiation. At the moment, I mean, not at the moment because I don't have a PET scan. The last one was in August, and according to that MRI, the parts that were still affected, were the right lung, some part in the lower right lung, some lymphs around the armpits, a bit more spread than last May, and the new part was the right breast as well, which was quite swollen. And now it's not that swollen, and it's a lot softer, her right breast, which is a sign that somehow the regimen has worked, and the body has responded. But we need to know to what extent all these tumors, let's say, have responded to the regimen. We'll see that during the next imaging scans. And within November, I'll have some, let's say, more results. And we'll see that.
So, McKenna and Carissa and Sonia, McKenna, did you have radiation? And Carissa and Sonia, did your loved ones have any radiation?
I was supposed to do radiation, but just as a precautionary measure, and they were doing it on my head, just because they told me that if that cancer reoccurs, it is usually in the brain, so they were doing that as a precaution. But I reacted really bad to the first time I did it, so I never went back. I never had to do it again. Yeah, I just got really sick, and they said it was really abnormal for me to be that sick, especially the amount of radiation they did and the little time they did it. So they just said that my body just wasn't, capable of getting used to that.
Could I ask Makina something?
Yes.
Makina, how long did the whole treatment take?
Well, my
the whole thing until you had a clear scan, let's say.
So I was diagnosed in March. Yes, March of 2015. I think I think I was in remission, completely clear, in January 2016. I think it was 2016. No, I don't know.
Right.
It's all a blur to me, honestly, but it wasn't
about a year.
Yeah, it was about a year. Yeah. It wasn't more than that, really. But I did have 27 weeks of chemo. So I think it was 9 cycles and then 27 weeks, but you know how it is when you get sick and you have to hold off, and then there's surgery. It took till January of 2016.
Has anybody got a medicine, a drug that is quite new? Probably you heard about that. It was circulated in January in USA, tazemetostat. Do you know that, Richie, maybe?
What is the name of it?
Tazemetostat. No. We were asked by Professor Mzawel if there is this drug in Greece, and they use it anyway, it's used for, let's say, palliative effect, but it's also used when somebody finishes chemos and there's there isn't anything else to be done. It's like kind of maintenance, if I may say so. And yeah, we asked our national organization of pharmaceuticals, and it was approved. And now we are waiting to bring that, because it's not even in Europe, and it's not allowed. But we asked for that in case we need it later on in a later phase, let's say when we finish chemos. So nobody has heard of that.
Oh,
So you
well,
I've
heard of.
Is that tamoxifen?
No, I'm just going to put it in the chat window for you. So it's in the chat window. It's called tazemetostat.
Yeah, my husband had that after he was doing the cisplatin, gemcitabine, and I think the isoflurane. When that didn't work, they had him on tazemetostat with I can't remember, in conjunction with something else. Like for him that worked for like a month or so, but then it stopped working for him. But yeah, he was on that. And yeah, like one of those side effects was he got pretty bad acne, but that was like a good sign, like he had acne all over his face and his back.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
So I just put it in the chat window. Tazverik. The trade name is Tazverik. Tazverik.
Tazverik, yeah, is the brand name. Tazverik. Tazemetostat, maybe it's the substance, right? Okay. And but Teresa didn't. You say that it didn't really work.
It worked for like a month.
Yeah.
But like after that, or maybe 2 months. Maybe 2 months it worked, and then it stopped working for him.
Yeah. Did he take it in part of a trial? It was in the middle of a trial, or no?
No, it wasn't. It was like it wasn't a trial. It was just like for like just treatment.
Yeah. Okay. Right, because there was a trial in Europe, and we were informed about that in August. But it was a trial only with that medicine, and the doctors here and in the MD Anderson, when they saw that there were some good results with other therapies, they suggested that it's better not to have something which has palliative effect now. We should try with some new combinations, because they see that the combination of drugs has some results, generally with RMC. That's what they told us. I don't know if, and from what I hear from all of you, all people use combinations of drugs, right?
It certainly sounds like that. Sonia, you were going to say something about radiation before.
Sonia, you're on mute.
Yes, I was going to say no, Jayla never had radiation. It wasn't offered. So with the clinical trials and then also being a pediatric patient, our options were very limited. So she was under 18. So she was, we went back and forth with Dr. Chenier, but then also some of the drugs were administered in the pediatric area of the hospital at MD Anderson.
So McKenna was a pediatric patient. Your daughter was a pediatric patient. Lois's daughter is a pediatric patient. So there's
Yeah.
3 here with pediatric experience.
Yes, and
But
I'm praying that Lois has her daughter survives. So that would be
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, we need
yeah.
more
so,
survivors.
Sonia,
Yes, ma'am.
Sonia, how long did Jayla take these treatments? For about a year?
Yes, it was about a year. So we started like soon as we found out, like August 28th, like we had a name for it. Like we went
Yeah.
straight to MD Anderson. I think it was like September 5th of 2018 was her first visit to MD Anderson. And every 2 weeks we would drive to Houston. And I think she went through like 4 of the standard clinical trials. I think it was just 4, I believe that's available. I don't know. And it was just standard, and they were discussing immunotherapy, but she had to be 18 for that clinical trial.
Mm,
And so we didn't do that. And then there was a new one that it really didn't pertain to RMC, but it was like a phase 1, and we were like, no, we're not going to do a phase 1 for that. So we just we ran out of choices, right? And so Dr. Tanier, he told us when he first met us in September 2018, he says, there's no cure. My job is to extend her life. And because when we first met him, I was like, we need to save her eggs because, with chemo. And then he looked at me and said, okay, that's not what we're concerned about. We're only here to, we're trying to save her life, not the eggs. Because she can adopt if So I was like, oh, okay. So that was like an eye opener, right? It was like, okay, listen, lady, you need to look at the big picture. Like, this is serious. I'm still thinking like, oh, but this is going to mess up her eggs. And then what if, and all this. And he's like, I'm trying to extend her life. So listen to me and, do these clinical trials and, we'll see how it ends up. So, and that's what we did. We just stayed with the 4. We ran out of choices, and she lived, from her last dose was like in early July, and then she passed away August 23rd.
mm.
So it really was extending her life because they told us, and the oncologist told us that if we had just taken that Miralax for those 3 months, Jayla would have been dead by December of 2018. So we saw him in July. He told us to take Miralax because he thought it was her stomach issues. And she said that without chemo, Jayla would have been dead. So it did extend her life, and I'm thankful for that. Like, I'm thankful for all the time that we were able to get. So memories are very important. Pictures, everything is very
Mm, mm,
So
mm.
did they use any of the drugs that we're discussing now with Jayla? Or are these new medicines?
Sonia, did you catch that?
No, I did not. For some reason, my phone kind of went out.
Did they use any of the drugs that we've been discussing for your daughter, for Jalen, or?
Yes, they did. I was recognizing a lot of the names that were mentioned. So, like, I went just the other day to the clinicaltrial.gov, and I saw the medication that Jayla was using for the trial that they have currently going at MD Anderson. And it was pretty much the same. I think it was the same standard ones. And like I said, some of it was working, obviously, because she lasted for a year. So they were working, and then they would stop.
Sonia, if you would be good enough to let us have your email address, because we don't have it, and that way we can make sure you get a notification every time there's a meeting. And I think there may also be people that want to reach you. You can put it in the chat window. You can send it to everyone, or you can send it just to me or to Richie, and we'll share it.
I'll put it in the chat. That's fine. I don't mind.
Okay, well that would be terrific. And we're running now 20 minutes over, but this is a great conversation. I had a meeting right before this, so I am gonna have to get off, but I'm happy to leave you all in the meeting room for as long as you want it. if you would like to continue the meeting.
I think we've been on almost 2 hours, so I think it's time to take a break and save some for next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And for me, it's soon I have to get up.
I know.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It was so nice to see you all and to hear you once more. Okay.
You too.
Well,
All right,
go-
I put my email address in there and I also have the video of Jayla. So that way y'all can learn a little bit more about Miss Jayla. So email
Yeah.
and that.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. So we have that. We will make sure that you're on the list.
Perfect.
And let me see where that video is for Jayla, because I see it up here. Oh,
Yeah, so when you
okay.
click on it, you can save it.
That's exactly what I'm just doing, and I think it's coming up right now. So I'm just going to, yeah. So it's there right now.
Perfect.
So we will. When are we meeting next month? What is it? The second Tuesday, right?
The second Tuesday in November. That's not going to run into any of the holidays, I don't think.
No.
We should be okay.
November 10th.
It's the
Before you guys leave, I wanted to tell you that I have scans on October 26th of this month. So I would appreciate your prayers, and I'll keep you guys posted as well.
Yeah.
All right.
And
All the best, Nikina. All the best, Nikina.
Hold on. Wait a minute. We got the 10th. And Andre, say that again.
I have scans on October 29th, so prayers for me as well.
Okay.
Okay.
For that whole week, say prayers.
And for Penina, it might be late November, she scans. So probably we'll have the next meeting, and you'll send your prayers then for Penina too.
Oh,
Okay.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Definitely.
We have,
Thank you.
Keep all of you in prayer.
Thank you very much.
And then I'll be older next month too, so everything is happening.
I'm turning 21 next month.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
I'm not telling you how old I'm turning next month. It's a state secret.
Yeah, we'll need to have a birthday celebration. My birthday is next month, also on the 19th.
Okay.
Really?
And McKenna, what day are you?
The 21st.
And I'm the 30th.
And
Okay, good. Okay, awesome.
I'm the 16th.
You're
My
the
mom
16th?
is the 18th.
And Chris was November 18th.
Wow,
Oh, perfect.
that's crazy.
Wow.
There's a lot of birthdays.
We'll
November
sing
party.
the birthday song then.
Right. I got to get those. You guys send me an email so I can write those dates down. You were going so fast.
Okay.
Will do.
All right, everybody. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
wonderful.
Bye.
We'll talk to you all
Bye.
soon. Good night.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye. Bye.
Richie, I want you to close out the meeting. You have to hit leave and then you have to end meeting for all.
Okay.
Okay?
Bye, everyone.